at me crazy. How can I make them look new?
Then she had an idea.
I know. Leg looks. Fashion hosiery that'll make whatever I wear look fresh and fabulous.
And she was right.
Leg looks. Colors. Leg looks. Patterns. Leg looks. Textures. Now that's great.
Leg Looks by Burlington. There's a new look in every pair. Also in control top and light support.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From the new WCCO Television Communications Center in the Twin Cities, this is the 10 p.m. report. With Dave Moore, Pat Miles, Skip Loescher, Mike Fairborn, and Mark Rosen.
Good evening, everyone. Ours is a nation of laws. The legislative branch writes them, the court interprets them. And tonight, 2 Minnesota courts are interpreting events to decide whether laws have been broken. One case centers on whether a Minneapolis police sergeant used excessive force in the arrest of a traffic speeder. And in Ramsey County tonight, a judge is trying to determine whether a nursing home is causing excessive strain on its residents by forcing the eviction of those residents on Medicaid. Lake Ridge nursing home administrators say the evictions are necessary not only by law, but also to retain the home's financial health. Relatives of Lake Ridge residents say much more is at issue: the physical health of their loved ones. And the court now must decide which is the more important. Pat?
Dave, while 27 residents have already moved, 40 others must be out by October because of Lake Ridge's decision to no longer accept residents who are on Medicaid. Relatives took their case to Ramsey District Court today seeking to block those evictions. Barb Brown reports.
The relatives of Medicaid residents living at the Lake Ridge nursing home say the home is discriminating against those residents by forcing them to leave and is violating their human rights. They claim at least one resident has died and others have suffered emotionally because they have to go.
A good friend of my mother died Monday, and last night my mother said if she hadn't moved, she would die too. One of the most tragic things is that these people are now giving up friends that they've had for 2.5 years. They've already been forced to give up friends in their own home.
Ironically, the nursing home's attorney said the evictions are necessary to avoid lawsuits. That's because a law requiring nursing homes to charge Medicaid and non-Medicaid residents equally was toughened last spring. Lake Ridge charges private residents more and says it has to continue to provide high-quality care. And the home now has sued the state. Meanwhile, residents and their relatives fear they'll have no place to go.
There has been a huge amount of panic among all of these families as to who will win the few available beds in Ramsey County.
The attorney for Lake Ridge declined to comment after the hearing today, and the home's owner said he'd rather not comment while the matter's in court. The hearing on the temporary injunction continues next Friday. Barb Brown, WCCO Television News, Roseville.
Accusations of abuse and assault are the key issues in another trial that began today in the Twin Cities. This one is underway in a Hennepin District courtroom and centers on charges that a Minneapolis police officer assaulted a man involved in a routine traffic stop. Caroline Lowe reports.
In June of last year, Sergeant Bill Chaplin stopped a speeding car on Lake Street. All 3 occupants of the car had been drinking beer that evening, including 20-year-old Stephen Goodwin. Prosecutor Kevin Short told the jury that Sergeant Chaplin and another officer questioned the passengers and then kicked Goodwin while he was lying face down on the ground. The incident left the young man with a couple of broken ribs and a punctured lung. Defense attorney Joe Friedberg argued that Goodwin and his friends were too drunk that evening to be sure which officers actually assaulted him. Friedberg also accused Goodwin and the other passenger of giving conflicting testimony about which officers took part in the incident. The trial resumes tomorrow morning when several policemen are expected to take the stand. Caroline Lowe, WCCO Television News, Minneapolis.
And the trial of a second officer also allegedly involved in that assault begins next week. A chase that reportedly originated from a lengthy drug probe came to an end this afternoon in a muddy field in suburban Plymouth. That is where authorities arrested 2 men who allegedly led them on a 20-minute high-speed chase that began in Brooklyn Park. Police say they recovered a packet of drugs at the scene, but not before 3 squad cars and the suspect vehicle got stuck in the mud. Hennepin and Ramsey County authorities say today's arrests are the culmination of a long-term investigation. The details have not yet been released. In the meantime, authorities are still on the lookout tonight for two men who held up the Marquette State Bank of Fridley. The two gunmen wearing ski masks walked into the bank about 11 o'clock this morning. They fled in a blue Oldsmobile, last seen heading north on University Avenue. The 5th precinct of the Minneapolis Police Department has moved north, well, just about 3 blocks. Tonight there was a dedication ceremony and an open house at the new station, now located at 24th and Nicollet Avenue South. The 5th precinct used to be housed in a building at 29th and Bryan Avenue South and was known as the Bryan Station. Tonight, police officials and the Minneapolis Police Swing Band were on hand to help celebrate their move. Dave?
It was nearly 1 year ago when the Palestine Liberation Organization was forced to move from the country of Lebanon. Tonight there is evidence that that situation has changed. Skip?
David, while there is no confirmation from U.S. officials tonight, Israeli intelligence estimates that 1,000 PLO troops have secretly returned to Beirut. Another 1,500 have made their way into the Shuf Mountains in southern Lebanon. Israel claims those PLO troops have joined with Druze soldiers fighting the Lebanese army. The returning PLO fighters are not believed to have heavy weapons and have formed small groups outfitted with small arms. And as the Lebanese army continues to trade fire with Druze forces around Beirut, U.S. Special Envoy Robert McFarland is trying to talk all the warring factions in Lebanon into calling a ceasefire. As an incentive, American warships sail closer than ever before to Beirut's harbor, and the Lebanese army has been restocked with U.S. ammunition.
Do you need American air support?
If they give us air support, we don't say no, huh?
But don't look for that to happen while the president is still trying to work out a compromise with Congress, which will allow him to keep the U.S. Marines in Lebanon for at least 18 months. Mr. Reagan sent a personal message to Menachem Begin today, calling him a source of inspiration and wishing him well on his retirement. Begin sent in his letter of resignation by messenger to Israel's president. The once fiery Begin, who made peace with Egypt, bombed a nuclear reactor in Iraq, and sent his troops into Lebanon, has been secluded in his home for the past 8 days, too ill to make a public appearance. He'll most likely be succeeded by Foreign Minister Yitzhak Shamir, who's expected to carry on Begin's policies. Shamir is just a bit more diplomatic than Begin, but today he warned that Israel will not allow the PLO to return to southern Lebanon. David?
10 p.m. report will continue in just a moment.
There isn't just one reason the prices at Cub Foods are lower than the prices at a regular supermarket. There are thousands of reasons. Everything we buy in volume. So everything we sell for less. Cub Foods, more than you'd expect, for less.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Maybe you should try something else. My dandruff shampoo really works.
Maybe you should try something else, like Selsun Blue. Doctors and pharmacists recommend Selsun Blue more than all other leading brands combined. It's #1. What that means to you is no leading brand gets rid of dandruff better than Selsun Blue. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, or try it yourself. That's all the proof you'll need. Selsun Blue. It's #1.
Value Plus at Dayton's. Classic leather handbag, just $49.99. Sophisticated satchels, shoulder and compartment bags at Dayton's. Value Plus. Value Plus at Dayton's. Women's career suits, just $89.99. Comfortable wool blends, elegant and down to business at Dayton's. Value Plus. Value Plus at Dayton's. Women's bandolino pumps, just $49.99. Refined business silhouettes in subtle fall colors at Dayton's. Value Plus.
RC Cola can refresh, revive, renew. RC Cola can really get to you. Cola loving woman, Cola loving man. Nothing really gets to you like RC Cola can. Refresh, restore, revive, renew. Cola loving woman, Cola loving man. Nothing really gets to you like RC Cola can.
Today, a California judge blew the whistle on what he called the deplorable conditions of San Quentin Prison, where 3,500 inmates are crammed into facilities designed for 2,700, and 2 inmates stuffed into tiny cells 4.5 feet wide, 11 feet long. The judge called double celling inhumane, tantamount to physical and emotional torture, and said it will no longer be tolerated by the state. But with inmates coming into San Quentin at the rate of 100 a week, prison officials say they don't have an answer. Well, sentencing guidelines could be a partial answer, Pat.
But Dave, setting those guidelines is not politically popular. That's what the Minnesota Sentencing Guidelines Commission found out earlier this summer. Commissioners want to avoid prison overcrowding here as well, but again tonight, the choices did not prove easy to make. Alan Cox reports.
The commission in July cut some prison terms for the least violent crimes. That will free up about 100 beds, and it will let about that many convicts free early come November. But commissioners say they were misunderstood. Barbara Andrus says it cost her the primary election for Minneapolis City Council. So tonight, when the Sentencing Commission looked at more reductions, most commissioners wanted to go slowly.
If we're going to be letting several hundred people out of jail early now when we don't need to, I'm raising a question whether we should defer this durational thing until later.
The way this has evolved the last few months, I don't really want to go through this again. I don't need the press conferences. I don't need the election year dynamics. I don't need any of that anymore.
But he'll get it. The commission voted down any changes tonight. Instead, it will get together for a day to review the facts. That one-day session will be held in mid-January, which is before the legislature is scheduled to reconvene in March. But prison overcrowding is projected to take place after March. And lawmakers, not the sentencing commissioners, will have the ultimate say on what to do with convicted criminals in Minnesota. Alan Cox, WCCO Television News, St. Paul.
Sparks from a cutting torch set off a fire at the old Hormel plant in Austin. That plant is being torn down anyway, but demolition work has been slowed because the building is so sturdy. The fire broke out Wednesday and was not under control until mid-morning Thursday. One witness said flames shot about 50 feet in the air and that the blaze stretched 400 feet long and 80 feet wide. The U.S. role in Central America is the subject of some fiery protests tonight in downtown Minneapolis involving about 700 people. 2 groups, one that opposes the United States expanding its involvement in the area and another that supports President Reagan's policies, have gathered at the old federal building. Those who support the president burned Soviet Premier Yuri Andropov in effigy tonight and called for the U.S. to fight communism decisively in the region. Those who oppose Mr. Reagan called for restraint in U.S. military action in the region.
A business card bearing the name of Kathy Brown of New York washed up on a beach in northern Japan today. And that is the first sign of any of the 66 Americans killed in the Soviet attack of Korean Airlines Flight 007. Tonight, the search for more evidence has turned into an international contest, it would seem. Skip?
Indeed, David. Both the U.S. and the Soviets are locked in a race to recover something from the sunken KAL jetliner, something which will support their rhetorical claims about the incident. Both countries want to recover the data and cockpit voice recorders, but first they have to find the tail section of the plane where the recorders are located. The recorders do send a radio beam, but it can only travel about 2 miles, and it's only designed to keep on beeping for another 15 days. Both the United States and the Soviets have a fleet of ships involved in that search, but thus far the objects of their hunt remain underwater. Here in Washington, the Senate beat back conservative attempts to invoke sanctions against Russia and then voted 95-0 to approve a House-passed resolution condemning Russia for shooting down the Korean jetliner. And the House continued to show its outrage with the Soviets by passing the compromise $188 billion military spending bill, which includes money to resume nerve gas production. Both measures expected to be signed by the president soon.
In Nevada tonight, the cops are trying to crack the case called the Copper's Caper, trying to figure out who helped themselves to some of the pennies that spilled across Interstate 80 today when a truck overturned in the Sierra Nevadas. The truck was en route from the Denver Mint to San Francisco when it lost its little Lincolns. 100 bags spilled out. 80 were recovered. Police are searching now for a suspect with very, very heavy pockets. 1.40 inches of rain fell in the Twin Cities today. That's as of 6 o'clock tonight. Had that been snow, how much would we have on the ground now?
You would ask that, wouldn't you?
I'm
we have to
looking
talk
ahead.
about snow so early? Well, 14, 15 inches, somewhere in that vicinity.
Heavens.
Yeah.
I guess I'll stay down tonight then.
I don't blame you. I would too. Blizzard outside. Well, not quite. But anyway, we did have some pretty good rainfall amounts, not just over us, but just about everywhere. And our temperature's been fairly uniform as well for the last 24 hours. 55 for high, 49 for low. We've been down to 54 in the last hour. We're back up to 55 degrees. And we still have some drizzle out around that would be adding to that snowfall that we've had, well, anyway. Other amounts around the area. See a big area out here to the west, all the way from the north down through us with heavy rainfall amounts, 1.13 inches at Duluth, 1.26 up at Grand Forks, North Dakota, surrounding us between 1 and 1/2 inch of rainfall. So everybody got a very good dousing tonight. 10 o'clock temperatures, well, we're 55, as we said, still fairly cool up on the Iron Range, 49, 48 degrees, Hibbing and Duluth, and temperatures in the 50s. So remaining cool today, and it's been cool this evening as well. What little bit of precipitation is falling is in the form of drizzle, and so it's really not showing up too much on radar. A couple of little echoes here to the northeast of us. We've had some down here around Redwood Falls moving east, and off and on through the night, that drizzle will turn into light shower activity and then go back to drizzle. And you can see a huge spiraling cloud mass moving east. That's a loop from the last 24 hours. This is just the last 8 hours. A big comma-shaped cloud, a lot of low cloudiness back here that's going to yet drag through us through the night and tomorrow. And as that does, we'll stay cloudy. Showers will be gradually tapering off early morning tomorrow morning, and maybe a peak of some sunshine by late tomorrow night before this next disturbance begins to make its impact felt here over the upper Midwest. If we take a look at the highs for tomorrow, we'll see temperatures barely climbing up into the upper 50s to near 60 degrees one more day, and then still fairly warm down to the southwest, but don't look for any great heat waves for us. Temperature 55 right now, the humidity is 83%, southeast winds at 930, and rising on the barometer. Our forecasts look like this. We will have fog, rain, drizzle tonight, winds out of the southeast at 10 to 20, a low of around 46 degrees, mostly cloudy, rain ending tomorrow, 59 for high, northwest winds switching around 10 to 20 miles an hour, and then tomorrow night and Saturday, partly cloudy, perhaps Saturday the best day of the weekend, 65 degrees for high. The extended outlook calls for chance of rain Sunday and Monday, partly cloudy on Tuesday, temperatures slowly climbing up into the mid-70s by Sunday, but then dropping back off into the mid-60s by Tuesday of next week, David. No snow in the forecast.
Thank you. We'll be back with more of the 10 p.m. report in just a moment.
It's the biggest twist of summer, the biggest splash, the freshest flowers, the loudest laugh.
It's Valley Fair's last weekend featuring Oktoberfest, a polka band, polka dancing, specially priced great German food. Come join the fun. A special weekend filled with music, dancing, great food, and entertainment.
It's a laugh going up, it's a scream coming down. It's the biggest family day around.
Low prices, high quality. Every store promises them. But at our country stores, I guarantee them with our tough two-fisted guarantee. We'll save you up to 20% and give you double your money back on any item you're not completely satisfied with. Take produce. You can pay more, but you can't find fresher or higher quality products. They call me the toughest retailer in America, but our two-fisted guarantee lets you hang tough on quality and price.
Terrific. Thank you. Let me tell you a couple things about the Star and Tribune. We're adding more world and national news, and we're adding more opinions and letters on the editorial page. Back in sports, 25% more features and scores. The whole paper reads quicker. It has more punch. At the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, we're not going to just promise you a better paper. We're going to deliver it every day.
The Minneapolis Star and Tribune. From now on, every edition's an extra.
You know Mary. Join me, Carol Burnett, and my old buddy Jim Neighbors on Carol Burnett and Friends.
Tonight at 10:30 on WCCO television.
Both the U.S. Congress and General Motors are working on job retraining programs. It takes Congress a little longer for these things, but in Flint, Michigan, where GM has 11 plants and 9,000 of its workers laid off, the company today announced a $7 million program to retrain the workers in the, quote, technologies of the future, encouraging retraining in fields outside the auto industry. And as we say, the U.S. House has its teeth into a retraining program. Skip?
Indeed, David, the House passed a $3.5 billion measure designed to create 500,000 minimum wage jobs and retrain unemployed workers. But even if the Democratic measure is approved by the Republican-controlled Senate, and that won't be easy, it will probably face a presidential veto. Not far from Capitol Hill, Walter Mondale was trying to dispel the notion that Democrats are insensitive to business. CCO's Jim Gately tells us that he made his pitch to a friendly audience.
Recent tough economic times and high unemployment have forced labor and management to change their approach. Candidate Walter Mondale agrees.
It's time to put the old antagonisms behind us. Labor, business, and government will stop shouting at each other and start working together.
Mondale has assembled 140 businessmen, including 10 from Minnesota, to advise him on policy matters. The Mondale plan calls for defense cuts and a way for all of us to help reduce the deficit.
We must face it, we need more revenues.
That translates into a proposed tax increase. After the meeting, Mondale says he sees this new cooperation in Minnesota.
I think Governor Perpich is bringing some people together. You know, this is something that statesmen in the business community and labor, some of the labor leaders have been talking about for a long time. Now we got to get it done.
The Mondale Business Council is an attempt to break down an old stereotype of business against labor. Mondale says no one can be a successful candidate or a successful president being against business. Jim Gately, WCCO Television News, Washington.
Mondale travels back home to Minnesota on Monday to meet with the state's labor leaders. Pat?
Skip, Governor Rudy Perpich, who just recently returned to the state himself today, declared his 3-week European trip a success. The governor noted that a Swedish firm will visit the state next week with an interest in opening a plant here. The governor told reporters that a state trade office will open 2 weeks from now in Stockholm, but what the state really needs is a World Trade Center to attract business worldwide.
It can be this area here, the metropolitan area, with the World Trade Center and everything, is going to be Paris, Rome, and Vienna all rolled up in one. We're really and literally will be the Paris of the United States.
Governor Perpich has decided, though, to delay his trip to China to spend more time following through on contacts from his European trip in an effort to bring more industry and jobs to our state. 600 workers in St. Paul will be back on the job soon. They are members of 2 unions which have been striking against American Hoist and Derrick Company. They voted today to end that walkout and to accept the company's contract offer. It includes a new insurance plan requiring workers to pay 20% of their medical expenses. About 1/3 of the workers are scheduled for work tomorrow morning. Further recalls, however, will continue, although there is no schedule as of yet. Dave?
Mark Rosen joins us next to report the day's sports news.
Used to be a man's home was his castle.
Let's go!
Jack's home is his new job. And his new job is a mother.
This is actually going to be great. There's nothing to this.
Michael Keaton.
Listen, you're doing a really great job with the kids, honey.
And Terry Garr in Mr. Mom.
Where's Bobby keep the extra diapers?
A comedy that cooks. Rated PG.
Starts tomorrow. Now playing at a theater near you. Check newspapers.
I adore my 64, my Commodore 64. I sing with it, write with it, figure my path of flight with it, my Commodore 64. I rate with it, create with it, telecommunicate with it, my Commodore 64.
64K memory at a price that will put a computer in every home, business, and school years before anyone ever dreamed.
I adore my 64, my Commodore 64.
Soon you could be living in a classic condominium that looks and feels more like a fine home. Woodbine. Its stately 9-foot ceilings, master baths with platform tub, gourmet kitchens, indoor pool, and atrium entrance reflect consummate quality. All of this is only minutes from downtown and just a short walk from Ridgedale. Share in the birth of Woodbine on Plymouth Road just south of Ridgedale, where soon nature and convenience will meet in uncommon harmony.
The Minnesota Vikings will try to regroup from their Doom in the Dome night against San Francisco when they meet Tampa Bay this Sunday here on CCO Television. This is Ralph John Fritz inviting you to join me for the Vikings Today, Sunday at 11 a.m. We'll speak with a player guest, and each week on the Vikings Today, we visit with referee Steve Hurwitz, who proves that zebras are human too. Bud Grant, the head coach of the Vikings, with a scouting report, and Bronco makes her pro picks. Join us Sunday at 11 for the Vikings Today here on CCO Television Sports.
If you're a student of international sailing competitions, you'll know that the U.S. team is pulling off the unexpected. Quite a coup in the America Cup races. Mark?
Halfway home, Dave, they lead Australia 2-0, and I'm starting to wonder if all that talk about Australia's secret wing keel was just a psych job, because for the second straight day, the American yacht Liberty just plain and simply outsailed the Australia 2, taking a 2-0 lead in the America's Cup pending a protest. Australia 2 contends that Liberty impeded its progress by illegally crossing its path on the fourth leg of the race. As they did yesterday, Australia took an early lead, in front by 35 seconds, but trouble soon followed. Yesterday, it was a broken steering gear pulley. Today, the Aussies had to send a man aloft some 80 feet for more than 10 minutes. Looks like a fun job. And that was for a mid-race mast correction. Australia 2 was still in the lead at this point, but not for long. Liberty skipper Dennis Conner switched to a bigger foresail and sailed closer to land. Liberty picked off an offshore breeze and passed the Aussies. By the time the boats turned for the fifth leg, Conner had a 48-second lead. The strategy continued, but in the end, Liberty crossed the line a minute and a half ahead of Australia 2. After the race, the Aussies asked for a day off, or a lay day as it's called. Their protests, meanwhile, must be heard before they race again. Don't expect the international jury to take Liberty's victory away. Well, do you think the Toronto Blue Jays realized they made a mistake when they released pitcher Ken Schramm last year? The ace of the Twins starting staff beat his ex-teammates for the third straight time tonight, 6-2 at the Dome. Ironically, in all three Schramm victories over Toronto, Dave Steve, the ace of the Blue Jays staff, has taken the loss. The game-winning hit was this home run by catcher Dave Engel, his 8th of the year, which gave the Twins a 3-2 lead. The Blue Jays, after leading the East at the All-Star break, have fallen 9.5 games back of Baltimore, but they still have a great season going, a record of 80-67. Only 4,039 watching in the dog day part of the season for the Twins. In the 8th inning, Mickey Hatcher, who's enjoying a great season at the plate, lined a home run to left. The Twins winning 6-2. Tomorrow night, it's Fan Appreciation Night at the Metrodome. Elsewhere in the American League, the scores: Boston has defeated Baltimore by the score of 7-1. Seattle and Chicago, they're being delayed by rain in Chicago. That game has now been postponed. And Texas beat Oakland 6-5. Meanwhile, in the National League, the Dodgers beat Houston 6-0. The Mets over St. Louis 6-4. Montreal defeated Philadelphia 4-1, and Pittsburgh beat Chicago 8-4. So the Phils and the Pirates are in a dead heat for the lead in the National League Eastern Division. Well, everyone who follows the North Stars is aware that Bill Mahoney has taken over as the team's new head coach this season. Few people, however, realize that the Stars' Salt Lake City Farm Club will also have a new yet familiar face behind the bench this year. Tom Hanneman has the report.
He has a new look and a new job, but John Paul Parisi still remains one of the most popular and recognizable figures in North Star history. JP has done a little of everything for the Stars organization. He played left wing with the club for 9 seasons, then spent 4 years as an assistant coach, and now he's tackled a new challenge. This season, JP will be coaching the likes of former Gophers Tim Hauer and Bob Bergloff, along with the rest of the Stars' new Salt Lake City Farm Club. Although Parisi hasn't spent much time with his team yet, it appears he's already won at least their respect.
Just because I'm the coach doesn't mean that I'm God. I like to be friends with the players up to a certain degree. They have to know that I'm the boss. I don't want my players to be scared of me. If they have problems or if things are going good, I want to be able to communicate with them and talk with them and make them feel good about themselves.
With JP Parisi on the bench, these players are certainly guaranteed of that. Tom Hanneman, WCCO Television Sports, reporting.
And Pat, believe it or not, the hockey season is upon us. The North Stars open their exhibition season tomorrow night in London, Ontario against the Washington Capitals. In the NFL tonight, quickly, Cleveland leading Cincinnati 17-7 in the closing seconds.
Okay.
Bye.
All those sports are going at the same time now. Thanks, Mark. On tomorrow's assignment board, the Minneapolis City Council will once again try to decide who should get the city's dog catcher contract. And a group of legislators and businessmen will discuss the state's business climate at a conference in Bloomington. Skip?
Pat, the president signs the unanimously passed congressional resolution tomorrow condemning the Soviet Union for the Korean airliner attack. And while Mr. Reagan accepts that resolution, a House Republican committee will begin its hearings into that same matter. Good night, David.
Good night, Skip. Today, 55-year-old Indian Swami Veshuddhanandu, a bearing chrysanthemums and a heart full of love, flew his motorized box kite from West Berlin over the Berlin Wall into East Germany. Which is verboten, as we all know. Soon after landing, the Swami was interrogated.